our West Coast became a potential combat zone. Living in that zone were more than 100,000 persons of Japanese ancestry, 2/3 of them American citizens, 1/3 aliens. We knew that some among them were potentially dangerous, but no one knew what would happen among this concentrated population.
The concentration camps in America were labeled with euphemistic terminology to try and twist the psychology of the public to think that it was okay to put people of Japanese descent away in what they call the camps of relocation. But relocating should be voluntary if they were forced in this situation. Even if you were citizens, they were arrested and locked up like prisoners, convicted for the cultural background. Now nothing can surpass the atrocities of the mass murdering in German concentration camps. Yeah, in both cases, the Nazis and the US government were racist, denying natural human rights. Enough injustices to incite a riot, but it was covered and kept quiet with propaganda. They handled the war false justifications, accusing Japanese for running spy operations on the West Coast, claiming that they were communicating with enemy ships, but this was all bullshit. There was no threat to national security because no radio waves were ever detected by the FCC. They said the Japanese purposely bought land next to factories and train tracks with plans to attack. Immigrants settled in these areas long before the war because the land was poor, so it was the cheapest land to build a farm. But the farming industry was jealous because the lands were cultivated so efficiently, and that the Japanese sentiment was high. The motto was all Japs are slant-eyed spies, and even though official federal sociologists said the Easties and Nieces were loyal to the US, stereotypes were used to degrade to a subhuman level to make the robbing of the freedom seem acceptable. Now this occurred before in US history, when slavery was practiced by the forefathers of the country. The attitude was the same, and it still remains. A ruling party gains on another people's pain.
On the night of December 7th, 1941, my father was taken away. All the leaders of the Japanese community were, the FBI came and took them.
Now in more recent years, after the civil rights movement, minorities sought an outlook for improvement, motivating a team of Japanese American lawyers to discover documents more fictional than Tom Sawyer. This was a situation that the government dreaded, incriminating papers that forgot to be shredded. A box was found with notes and evidence, computing fabricated, falsified reasons for the uprooting of my mother and father, aunties and uncles and grandparents, and the mistake of the past became blatantly apparent. The government was faced with a Supreme Court case that they knew they were gonna lose, so they had to abuse power once again to get the case canceled. And in 1988 they found an answer, so all future lawsuits would be negated, because technically the government already compensated a small percentage of the victims who were still alive, and the lies were devised to pull the wool over the public's eyes to seem apologetic for their actions, but they faked it, and the bill was signed by the actor Ronald Reagan. But 20 grand didn't mean a damn to my grandfather, who came from the motherland of Japan at 16. No money in his hand, he didn't care. By 37 he became a self-made multi-millionaire. But soon his American dream became a nightmare when it fell prey to government schemes. Democracy was obviously failing when the FBI listed my G-Chan as a dangerous alien, raided his home, kidnapped him from his family without any reason, like he committed treason. Took all of his possessions and he never gave it back. So what made them think that they could ever pay him back? Cause putting the money in his face is a disgrace. They never should have taken it away in the first place. It's like taking a baby's lollipop away and giving it back when he's old and gray. And some people see the redress as a fair favoritism, but it's just another method of separatism that the government promotes, and they're excited cause it covered their own ass. Plus they're keeping us divided by manipulating minds, but we must unite to see through the conspiracies. But only a few people are hearing me. We can't let this keep going on, or once again they're gonna drop the bomb like Hiroshima.
I was 4 years old when we went to camp. It was May 17, 1942. We didn't see my father until 1945. My father was a Japanese citizen. My mother was an American citizen. She was born in America.
History shall repeat itself unless we learn from the past and teach it to the youth. Put your hands up for truth, put your hands up for truth, put your hands up for truth, put your hands up for truth. Hey, history shall repeat itself unless we learn from the past and teach it to the youth. Put your hands up for truth, put your hands up for truth, put your hands up for truth, put your hands up for truth. concentration camp. We're under attack. Don't be surprised if you wind up in a concentration camp.
When they were innocent, took everything they had. How anxious will you be to defend that country? I'm afraid many people would not be, but they were.
The concentration camps in America were labeled with euphemistic terminology to try and twist the psychology of the public to think that it was okay to put people of Japanese descent away in what they call the camps of relocation. But relocating should be voluntary, yet they were forced in this situation, even if you were citizens.
It's unembellished, it's straightforward, and it's a devastating indictment of our government and of our society.